All right, I think I get asked this question by every single parent eventually. They say, how much should my kid be practicing at home? And I'm supposed to say 20 minutes 3 to 5 times a week, in the same way that every basketball coach is supposed to tell their players, you're supposed to shoot 100 free throws every single day. But that's stupid. I don't know that that's right, and I don't trust that any of them actually know that either. It's just a lie that we tell when we get asked an unanswerable question. Because the real answer is 1, longer than they want to hear, and 2, I don't know. What I do know is that we count progress in numbers of hours of focused practice. In the age-old debate of quantity versus quantity, as always, the answer is both. But the quantity of time alone is not necessarily making you better. You could sit at the piano for 500 hours and play stuff that you already know and not be really working on something that's difficult for you, and you're not going to get very much better. But if you focus so much on making the quality of your practice time really high, you're probably not going to want to do it much, and you're probably going to end up just as bad as that person who spent a lot of time not really doing any work. Because you did really good work for not really any time. But the truth is, if someone tells me, I've been playing piano for 10 years, I have no idea how good they are. But if they tell me I've got about 100 hours of focused practice under my belt, I've got a decent idea of what they can do. So let's talk about this focused practice thing. We're largely talking about the amount of time that you spend with no distractions, working deliberately, repeatedly on something that you can't quite do yet, and probably using some track or metronome as an objective standard of your progress. Focused practice means you're staying within the zone of proximal development. In short, that just means that you've always got this feeling of like, oh, wait, I almost have it. Let me try just one more time. I almost have it. Wait, no, I messed up, but I can get this. If you have that feeling of like, I need one more chance, then you're in the zone of proximal development. This is why I always tell my students at the end of a lesson, let me know this week if you're either bored or confused. Both of those are going to cause frustration, but for very different reasons. Bored means I'm not in the zone of proximal development because I'm working on stuff that's too easy for me. Confused means I'm not in the zone of proximal development because I don't really know what to work on. It doesn't make sense to me. Or maybe the thing does make sense to me, but I don't really know where we're going with this. I'm just working on scales or arpeggios or whatever I was told to do to fill in the time. But I don't really have a goal in mind. I don't really want to try one more time. I don't feel like I almost have it because I don't know what it is. But if they're not confused and they're not bored, I'm actually okay with them being frustrated. If their frustration is outweighed by the belief that they can do it. It's frustrating when you're playing a video game and you keep dying at the same place over and over and over, but you keep trying because you think, this time I'm going to get it. That's the zone of proximal development. I want their frustration to be with their current performance and never their innate ability. Because once a person has lost hope, they've lost everything. So that's what focused practice looks like. As far as the question of, well, what should they be learning and what should they be working on while they're in the zone of proximal development, that's a whole other video. But I can say it's really helpful in most cases to have regular breaks and to have multiple things to work on. After repeated failures on this thing and losing hope a little bit on that or getting really frustrated with that, you might still have some good focused practice in you if you got a chance to change to a different song or a different topic. That's not true for every personality. Some people just like to have one thing only and really focus on that. I can also generally say that sometimes it helps just to sleep on it because it can feel like you're actually getting worse as you practice a thing. That's totally normal. What I've found is sometimes when I take a break, then my brain gets to process all that stuff that I was doing, especially if I go to sleep and let my brain process all that stuff. Then somehow I can come back the next day and sometimes be even better than I was the previous day without any practice. It's not a for sure thing. I'm just saying if it feels like you're getting worse the more you practice, that's a totally normal thing. It doesn't mean you're actually getting worse. It just might mean you need to take a break. Or it might mean you need to push through. You're going to have to experiment and find out for yourself. Just sometimes, some days, practice doesn't go well. Sometimes seemingly easy things end up being hard, and vice versa. But you can know that if you're putting in the time of focused practice in the zone of proximal development, you're getting better. Once you've reached 500 hours of focused practice, you're going to be 500 hours of focused practice good. You're going to be better than almost anyone who has 400 hours of focused practice. And you'll still be infinitely worse than you could be since there's an infinite number of hours that you could practice, which is why you just have to enjoy the journey. There's no arriving, but there is getting better, and the way you get better is focused practice. So how much should you be practicing? As much as you're willing to. As much as you enjoy, as much as serves you and your goals. 20 minutes, 3 to 5 times a week sounds great. Honestly, that's probably more than the average student puts in if we're talking about focused practice. But some students are going to dig in and they're going to grind away for hours a day. They're going to become hours of focused practice per day better. And so everyone's going to think they're talented, which is a whole other video I did. Long story short, you can be talented too if you put in a lot of hours of focused practice. Did I say focused practice enough? Good. Now, go. Explore, mess up, have fun, rock on.